Hey guys, we're back this week. I want you to stop for a minute and think about imagining a Category 3 storm. It's barreling across the Atlantic. It's coming up around Cuba. It's headed right for Cape Coral, and it's about a Category 3, so it's going to push all this storm surge up the canals, potentially into your backyard. You don't have anything on your shelves, and the shelves at the store are bare. What do you do next? Yes, these are things that can happen to you when a hurricane comes to Southwest Florida. Cape Coral in particular got pretty hammered last time. In fact, this picture behind me, I took this about 2 days before Hurricane Ian. Gorgeous sky, just had to use this in this video, but I'm going to prepare you with 6 things that you need to do in order to prepare. There's going to be some do's and don'ts in this list, and there's going to be some suggestions of how you can do it better. I'm even taking notes on this because I've been in Florida for a very long time, but owning your own home, taking care of it for a storm is quite different than if you've been renting or if you had help with this stuff before. I'm in my home by myself, so it's me and my son that take care of all this stuff, and we need to learn the best ways, and we keep refining things to get better and better. And we're going to share those tips with you as we keep moving. So stick with us so we can get through all this, because my job is to educate you to make your life in Florida better. So let's get going. Okay, first of all, you know Cape Coral, Florida has 400 miles of canals. That's more than anywhere in the world. And what that also does is opens us up to local risks. Number one is local risks. And one of our bigger local risks is flooding. Yeah, flooding can happen. The canals are what contributes to that. And with all these canals, you have to think there's different places along the canals that you can live, either by the mouth of where the water enters the canal. These are known as direct access because there's no bridges in the way. And then you have the others that have bridges, obviously, and can be as much as an hour and a half up the canal system. Yes, believe it or not, it can take that long because it's a 5 mile an hour speed zone due to our marine life. We do not want to disrupt that. That is a rule. Is it always followed? Absolutely not. Will you get fined if you're caught? Absolutely. So pay attention to that. It's just a small caveat to think about. Anyway, the further up the canal system you go, less likely you're going to get the major flooding like you would if you were at the opening. So that's going to play a part in your flood insurance. It's going to play a part in what you're going to choose to do as far as evacuation and how you're going to prepare the home before you leave. One of the odd things about Cape Coral is you could literally, even on a regular tropical storm kind of a thing, doesn't have to be a hurricane, if there's a ton of water that's been introduced to the area, whether through rain or through storm surge, every street is not the same. I've driven down streets before where one was flooded to a point where the water was halfway up the grill of the car, and it was maybe a Cadillac. So that's one hand. The other hand, there's nothing on the road. Literally nothing on the road. I don't know why this happens this way. You'll see as you drive through Cape Coral, many properties are still elevated because when they were originally on well and septic, those homes always get elevated because they have to put a septic tank in. So they just build the whole thing up higher, helps the elevation for things like flood insurance anyway. And it just happens to pay off after the water sewer conversion because now they're still elevated. But I'm going to show you on the flood maps how even a neighborhood that is considered high and dry, the streets will almost always show as though the water can sit in those spaces, as long as it doesn't touch the house. So if you look at a flood map and it doesn't touch any part of the house itself, you should be considered in an X zone or at least an X500. That way you're not going to be hit with a massive flood bill. We'll talk about flood insurance later, and we can really do a deep dive sometime to talk about some of the things you need to consider when you're doing this. But let's move on to the next thing, which is power outages. It's a real thing. Your power can be out for a couple days to a couple weeks. Ian was about 3 weeks worth. It wasn't fun, but with those power outages, you just have to prepare. The other thing is road access. Road access can be difficult because obviously there's going to be a lot of people that want to try to get out, so they're going to evacuate. There's going to be other people who are curious and driving around, and there's going to be the situation of debris all over the roads. So access is tough. The one other thing that you may not even be thinking about, Cape Coral is a peninsula, meaning that we have bridges to get out here. 4 bridges in particular, 2 to the north at North Fort Myers, and then we have the midpoint and then the Cape Coral Bridge. All of those, if the winds sustain at 40 miles an hour or more, they're shutting the bridges down. So now you have no access whatsoever. The only way out at that point is to go north up Burnt Store Road, US 41 or I-75. Now with 3 ways to get out, and Cape Coral has about 220,000 residents. And if let's just say a third of those even want to leave, that's a lot of freaking people trying to leave at one time, right? Now, you know a storm's coming at least a week in advance, and you will see weather reports that will get more and more frequent with spaghetti plots, just the weather updates, what they think the storm is going to do, the strength of the storm, which way it's going to track. It's going to be nonstop. And wait until the last day or two, it's going to be 24/7 on your television. So they will prepare you on where it's coming from, how it's going to move its way through the area, and hopefully the strength that's going to come in. They'll even be able to help us understand how much tidal change there's going to be and how much surge there's going to be based upon high tide, low tide, moon cycles, and all that other fun stuff. But pay attention to those reports because they will help you. And if you are going to evacuate, understand you may need extra gas because it could be quite a while to get to a gas station. Gas runs out fast. We're going to talk about supplies and some of the supplies you need to get, and some of the ones are going to run out really fast. So try to prepare in advance. We're even going to give you a timeline of how to prepare. So just hang tight. We'll get there in a minute. We're going to just jump forward now onto home preparation. The home preparation steps are going to be both for outside and inside. We'll start with the outside because that's the part that's going to be affected most by the winds. So first you want to be thinking about your lanai area. So you've got outdoor furniture, you've got grills, you've got a pool cage, maybe a boat lift. What we want to focus on is first the lanai furniture. Are you going to put it away in the garage? Are you going to push it up underneath the cover and maybe have some roll down protection? There are some screens that come down that are made of Kevlar that can protect everything inside that home. You don't need to put anything over the windows if you have these roll downs. And it helps put away the furniture without having to move it somewhere else, which can be very inconvenient and really time consuming. So then we think about the pool cage. Depending on the age of your cage, if it's a new cage, say after Ian, and it's been reinforced, they're putting more cables on it now. They're using bigger pieces of metal. So it's reinforcing these cages so that when the wind does come, it grabs the screens and treats it like a sail on a boat. So it's pushing with all this force. So the recommendations here are if it's an older cage and it maybe isn't reinforced that way, you've got two choices. You can either cut the screens if they are older. If you can see they're brittle, maybe you push on a little bit and they might get a tear. It really doesn't matter at that point. You might just want to cut them just to make sure that you don't ruin the frame that they're attached to. And you don't have to do all of them. Just do a few around so the air can flow through easier. But the other option is there's a rubber spline that's pushed in to hold the screens in any window or any framed area. You pull the rubber spline out and either leave a piece of it attached still so it can flap in the wind, or just take the whole panel out and you can replace it after the storm's passed. Now, if you know the screens are going to be replaced after because you either cut them or they're just old and brittle, get the supplies up front. Buy them now before the storm comes, because I'm going to tell you what, things get really short, really fast, and really expensive really quickly. And I know there's not supposed to be price gouging during things like this, but you can't tell me when something's short in supply, they don't raise the prices. Happens in every store, even a Walmart. So don't think that you're still going to have access to these things after the fact, because you may not. In fact, after Ian, I had to recruit somebody's help. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Somebody had to come bring me supplies because there just weren't any available. So we'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, pick up loose landscape debris. Palm fronds, they're always laying on the ground. And yes, they can be a projectile. They're heavier and dense and more dense than you think they are. So they can do damage. Pick that stuff up. Any kind of loose material across your yards, kids' toys, any sports equipment, everything should be picked up and put away somewhere or secured to the ground. Now, trimming trees. They say that you should do this too because the weight of a heavier limb plus the winds, it can break off and then it becomes a projectile as well. So they say trim them back and get rid of the debris before the storm comes. Don't do it right before. Don't do it a day before, because now you're going to have trouble getting rid of the material you just cut up. As far as boats on lifts, there's two different lines of thinking. Like I'm seeing some things where it's talking about lowering the boat, but I know people to raise them, trying to get it as far up off of the water as possible, and then securing it to the lift itself, because it could float away with everything else if the surge gets high enough. Now, I've also seen some folks that have tied the boats off to stakes in the ground so that at least they're secured. If it does raise, it's not going to float away into another neighborhood or something. So many things to contend with if you are a boat owner and you live on a saltwater canal and you have a lift. There's some things you're going to want to do to prep for that and make sure you do it well. Or you could be like some other folks. They literally pull the boat out for the storm, put it on a trailer, take it in their backyard, strap it down, and use an auger style stake that can be twisted into the ground. It's more secure than just driving a stake in the ground. And just strap this over the boat a few times, and you should be perfectly fine. We talk about boarding up windows and putting shutters up. Nowadays, impact windows become very prevalent, especially on newer homes, and you can also put it on older homes. It's about 25 to 30,000 as a beginning point to replace the windows in an average home. And if that's something you're not going to do, if you don't have shutters, get some plywood. Get this in advance. I'm telling you again, these supplies will run out fast. And lumber is already expensive in many places, so if you have to get these wood pieces and cut them out to the shapes of your windows. Some of these windows, you may not even get a piece of plywood that fits it. You might have to get a couple pieces. They make some clips that you can put on the ends and push into the opening of the window. And our windows here, they're kind of angled slightly inward as it moves into the house. So when you push this board in, it locks in these little clips into the concrete stucco on the edges of the window. And then there's a little tab you push on to pull them back out again, but that's your last resort. You'd like to have some shutters, maybe you can call a company, they'll drill the holes in your wall, and you can have a piece of like a Kevlar blanket, like same thing as the roll down shades on your lanai. You can get them put on the windows, so after you take them down, they fold up like a little blanket and you put them away. Much easier to work with and just as protective. Sandbags at your garage doors and your front doors and your side doors, whatever doors. Now, sandbags is also an alternative. There are some new technologies out there that will give you different ways to be able to block off the openings to your home. But sandbags, we will have people here locally at the city, they'll dump a pile of sand and they'll have bags. I believe they have the bags available. If they don't, you can probably get some. You have to fill the bags yourself, tie them off, and then stack them appropriately around your house to keep things from flooding if you're in an area that's prone to that. Gate preparation. Now, this is one that snagged me. I was just beside myself on this one. I wasn't certain how to do it, and then I waited for Ian to destroy my fence before I found out how to better do it. And what you do is with your gates, there's literally a nut that holds the two different sections of the fence, top and bottom. You slide it onto the bolt. You put the little bracket, you slide the bracket onto the bolt and tighten the nut. And that's how you also level your gate. So if your gate's all twisted sideways, you can tighten one of the nuts and straighten it right out. Well, take these nuts all the way off, slide the gate door completely off, take them both. I have two. So on this one, it's a 12-foot opening. I've got two that I have to take off. And then what I did on the last storm is I stacked it between my shed and my chain link fence and then leaned it sideways. It didn't go anywhere. It stayed perfectly fine there. If you can fit it in a garage, even better. I didn't have access to a garage at the time. So that's what I did. But gate preparation, that's one thing you need to consider. Also, the cap on the main posts, if you pull that off, you will see inside a screw that is holding the top bar that holds all your panels in place. If you pull those screws out, now that top bar can move. Move it out of the way, pull the planks out, and stack those aside. Maybe again, in the garage. If you have a truck that you put away in the garage, put it in the bed of the truck. Why not, right? Most of my bed of my truck is wide open right now, so I can easily do that. If yours is, consider that as something you could do. Now, on the inside, unplug the electronics that you're not necessarily going to use to avoid any electrical surges that may happen, because you will see transformers blowing up. You can if it's an evening when the storm's coming through, you'll literally see flashes in the sky. What it is our transformers many of them are up on poles. That's why we have all these wires in the air. And they will blow during these storms. And you'll see the lights, you'll lose your power, and now we're on to a whole nother set of things. You also want to fill your bathtubs with water. You want to fill garbage cans with water. Now, again, this isn't for you to drink. This is to fill your toilet, to flush it. You're not going to bathe in this either, obviously. But the water that's in the tub, you could probably use it to wash for a few days. But remember, still water is still going to get funky. I don't know. Some people think that they might put some bleach in or something just to keep that from happening. But then you put bleach in, and how are you going to use this water? It's literally just going to be for maintenance things. As far as your refrigerator and freezer settings, put it on the coldest setting within, I'd say you want to do this like 12 hours in advance of the storm hitting. That way it gets nice and cold because if you lose your power, the longer you can keep that stuff cold in the freezer and the refrigerator, the longer it will stay good and the better chance you have of not losing it. Take your valuables, move them somewhere high and dry. Take them with you if you're leaving, obviously, because then you'll get them out of harm's way. But you want to get that stuff out of the way. Anything that's valuable, if you have antique furniture or anything, get it, again, get it up off the ground if you're in a flood zone. If you're not in a flood zone, you could do it out of precaution, but I'm not in a flood zone. And I can tell you, even with the worst storm, Ian, I barely had any water at the tip of my driveway. So we're in a pretty good area here as far as flooding goes. I don't need to worry about those things. However, I will do I will do the next thing, which is document everything in your home. I was going around taking pictures of all the things I considered valuable. So I have a record for the insurance company if I ever did have any kind of loss. Let's just say if something happened to the roof and part of it came off and then lots of water or something, rain and things like that came in. It's very unlikely. I'm just being dramatic here. But if that was to happen and you put all this stuff away already, then you're okay. If that happens and you lose these things, now I have a photo record of my belongings that I can then put in and submit for the insurance companies. So that's why you want to do that. Also, any documents that are important, legal documents, put them away in a safe, a waterproof safe, or something, a mobile kind of a safe, a smaller safe you'll be able to take with you. But get those things, get your valuable things out of the way, secured, and documented with photos. Now, let's talk about number 3, the supplies you need and for how long. So, big one is water. You need a gallon per person per day for a minimum of 7 days. Cape Coral advisories have said 7 to 10 days. So I can just speak from our experience. We were fortunate enough that when Ian came through, the National Guard also was brought in. There were helicopters flying around, landing in our school's fields. Right in my back area here, I have a baseball complex, and they literally took the whole complex and had cars from all over the area driving through there and picking up supplies. They had MREs, they had cases of water. So if a storm is bad enough, many times you'll get supplies like that from things like National Guard, our local church. I went down there and helped them, donated some of my time to help others, and was handing out cases of water, bags of food, things that were donated to help these folks out. So there are a lot of different ways to get these supplies after, but we're going to talk about what you need to get in advance so that you don't have to get in these lines. So, water's number 1. Food, non-perishable, 7 to 10 days. We're talking cans, protein bars, peanut butter. Yes, peanut butter. A big tub of peanut butter, do you know how long that can last? And it's full of fat and protein. So it's a really, really good source to have on hand, especially for something like a storm. Power, batteries, flashlights, lanterns, portable chargers, generators, the fuel for the generators. All these things you have to think about. I bought a couple lanterns literally just last week, and there's no storm in sight, but I have them now. They're there for me should I need them. I learned in the last storm, I had one lantern, so it had to be carried around everywhere. Flashlights sometimes can work if they're powerful enough, but most of the small ones barely put off any light. So if you're, say, want to use the bathroom and there's no power, you're not used to, like my bathrooms don't have windows. So if I close the door, it's completely dark. A flashlight sometimes barely cuts it, but these lanterns, it lights up everything. So get a couple lanterns. I'm warning you, you want to do that. Also, portable chargers are really handy. You can also charge them through the generator if it's set up that way, if you do end up running down, but try to keep it as fully charged so you have access to that without having to turn on the generator, because guess what? The generator will not be on until after the storm. The storm can take a couple hours. It can take many hours. It depends on how fast it's moving. So if you lose your power early on, it could be 12 hours. I doubt it's going to be that long, but it could be a very long time before you're able to get out and turn a generator on and get everything hooked up. So keep that in mind. Other sources of power until you can get the generator hooked up. Now, Let's just talk about the power part because this is something that I'm investigating right now. I just found out about something called a Generlink. We just talked about it in one of the previous videos. The Generlink is offered by LCEC, our local power company. It goes right on the meter outside your home. So where the glass thing is, where they come and read the numbers, they pull that off. The Generlink goes on. It's basically it's like a transfer switch that's put on and then the meter goes over top. It's limited to 30 amps though, so you're not going to run a bunch of stuff off of it. It's literally just an emergency backup kind of a deal. It does go right to your breaker box, so you have to shut all your breakers off and only turn on the ones that you need at the time. Again, 30 amps isn't going to go very far, but that is one option. Now, they have transfer switches that you can get done and an interlock kit. So basically, come out, they'll put another box next to your breaker box, and you'll be able to hook your generator directly into this, and that is going to let you run pretty much the whole house. The AC is the hardest thing because it draws so much power, but if you've got some mini splits, like somebody here, yeah, those mini splits, super efficient. You can run, I've got two of them. I can run them both on there as well as refrigerators and TVs and stuff like that. So that's the setup I think I need to get. It is a little more expensive. It's probably double the price of what the Generlink was offered by the power company, but you need to have a professional. You need a licensed electrician to come out and do this. And they should be somebody that works with the higher voltage stuff because you're getting into the main breaker box. Anyway, that's something to consider. You can also get the whole home generator. Generac, obviously, is one of the bigger names that you know, but you can have that put on the home. Then you're going to have a fuel source attached to it. So it's a little more complicated, a lot more expensive, but that's another way to get power from after the storm. Medical, make sure you get prescriptions up front. Yes, because again, it can be a long time. We're talking 7 to 10 days for food, so consider the same thing for your prescriptions. However, getting those prescriptions refilled after the storm, once again, our supplies, it's harder to get them. It takes longer. Gas, food, water, all that stuff, it takes a while to get here. It doesn't just happen overnight. And that's where we were fortunate enough to have Andrew over on the East Coast, and he is part of one of my network groups. He does something similar to what I do here with the channel. He's a real estate agent like I am, and he's trying to help folks understand what it's like to move to his area. So this is something we're doing as a group effort around the state and around the country, just trying to help folks like you. But he came across the state to help me, bring in propane and gas and water, all the things that were hard to find at that time. I had somebody bring the supplies in, so I had them. And guess what? When I had a surplus, what did I do? I gave those away as well. So you're trying to help wherever you can. You don't want to hoard everything because truly there is a point where, too much is too much. You don't need all that. And you're never going to use it all. At one point, I think I had like 7 or 8 propane tanks. What am I going to do with 7 or 8 propane tanks? It'd be nice to think that, oh, I got supplies forever. But, Bob over there might have nothing. And Jim might have one. So yes, help your neighbors out. Get the supplies in advance if you can. If you can't, see if you can get somebody, bring it into you. Many people are more willing to help than you think. Comfort. Let's talk about baby supplies, pet food, entertainment. You got to have some entertainment that doesn't involve plugging something in unless you want to use the generator. But remember, again, that's after the storm passes. During the storm, cards, board games, things like that. Again, the lantern's going to be very helpful here so you can see what you're doing. But anything that's interactive like that, keep your mind off what's going on. Some people get freaked out by the noises. It can get rather loud when the wind is blowing into the home, and you might hear some windows rattling or at least some shutters. Things like that, it can freak some people out. Sometimes I've had somebody equate some of the sounds to like a loud train nearby. So keep that in mind. If you're somebody that gets freaked out by those noises, you might just want to get the heck out and not worry about it. Cash. ATMs run on power. If we don't have power, you can't use it. Have some cash on hand. Keep it in a safe place, but have that in case you need to purchase something and we're still not back on the grid electrically. Fuel. Yes, the gas runs out fast. The lines get long, just like these school car lines that I've shown you. It's the same way when you're trying to get gas. And then you got somebody pulling 10 cans out of the back of the truck to fill those and fill their truck. It's a complete show. You know what kind of show we're talking about? It's that show. Yeah. And tempers are flaring and patience is short. So do yourself a favor, prepare in advance. If you see the storms coming, get a couple 5-gallon jugs. A 5-gallon will last you longer than you think it will. When I use my inverter generator, I found that a 5-gallon lasted quite a while. I mean, days. It was lasting me days. Now, keep in mind, I was cycling the generator on and off after a few hours. So I wouldn't just let it run, 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 run. I'd do it a few hours, give it a little break. Do it a few more hours, give it a break. But that's the way I chose to do it, and it worked out fine. If you run it straight out, you might go through the gas a lot faster. But in many cases, you'll find, in this particular case, the weather was a little cooler, so it wasn't so muggy and stagnant. So we were able to do that. But if it was hot and sticky, you probably have to keep a fan running or a portable AC unit or something. And they also recommend having a battery-powered NOAA weather radio so you can track kind of what's going on with the storm. You're not going to be able to see the TV anymore, so have some kind of source for information, like how fast the storm moving, where's it going, are these things going to affect me, and for how long? So anyway, let's move on. Number 4, what happens if you delay? All right, grocery shelves, they're going to be bare. You're going to find basic stuff. Here's the other thing. Can I give you one word of caution? Because I did this. Don't buy stuff as supplies if it's not something you're normally going to eat. Because you think you're going to eat it, you have all the good intentions to eat it, but then you find it expired on your shelves a year later. Yeah, ask me how I know. Yeah. So don't buy stuff you don't normally eat. It really is a waste. Find the thing closest to what you would normally have and just use it. That's what it's there for. But there's going to be limited supplies at one point. Gas stations, they're going to be out of fuel within 24 to 48 hours in most cases, and it's going to happen without warning. And they're not going to be able to bring any more in until the storm's passed. So this availability of gas, it's going to go up to right about 12 hours, maybe within 6 hours of the storm hitting. But from there, it's shut off. They're not bringing any more trucks in. They're trying to keep everybody out of the area. They're not going to send them in. They will have the electrical trucks. All these power trucks will be on standby out of the way of the storm, but ready to roll in right after. It was an amazing sight to see when they started hitting our area after Ian. It was just hundreds of trucks rolling in. So yes, people will unite from around the country and come do the work here. Now they get paid handsomely to do it, and there's a lot of work, and it's going to happen really fast, and it's going to happen. The hours are long. These guys bust their backside. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us. To have access to professionals like you that brought our lives back to normalcy, there's just no price to put on that. Okay, once again, we talked about this with supplies. Home Depot and Lowe's, they're going to be stacked. It's gonna feel like going to an amusement park, and you're gonna find the stuff that you're looking for. There's gonna be people fighting over it. I haven't personally witnessed it. I've seen lots of examples of it in our media, obviously, but people literally drag out fighting for supplies. I'm not getting involved in that. I'd rather just have all my stuff in advance. I've literally right now in my house have 6 or 7 cases of water. I have it on standby through the summer, partially because of storms, but also when we go on the boat, the water we take is in bottles. So we throw a bunch of bottled water in. So we do like to try to keep some cases of water in the house already, but there's a little extra during summertime just in case one of these storms comes. Insurance offices and adjusters, please understand, your insurance claim is going to take some time. There are literally going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of others like you who are trying to get their claims looked at and taken care of so they can repair their homes. Patience is going to have to be the word you learn at that time. The evacuation routes and the gridlock involved. Yes, we already talked about the bridge closing. We already talked about the fact there's only like 3 real ways in and out going north if the bridge is already closed. But the gridlock that happens because you're forcing thousands of people, again, 220,000 people plus live in Cape Coral right now. So with that happening and all these people want to get out, do you realize that Burnt Store Road is still 1 lane in each direction for a good stretch? I'd say for about a 3 to 5 mile stretch. You're going to have to deal with this. There's no way around it. And if you think you're going to drive around people in the grass and off the side of the road and stuff, remember the ground is in most cases going to be very soggy. So what you're going to do then is get yourself stuck. That's not going to be ideal. And like I said earlier, gas is going to run out fast. So if you don't have an adequate supply in your vehicle and you get stuck for hours waiting in these lines, you're going to run out of gas. So if you don't think you can make it to your destination with the gas you have, I'd almost like to say don't go at all and just hunker down and buckle up for the ride, because getting stuck out there in a vehicle is not what you want to do. Ultimately, if you're stuck and you've got no other options, you're literally at the mercy of either neighbors that are kind enough to help you out or first responders, which I'm going to tell you, they will warn you before the storm comes. First responders will not go out after a certain time, and they won't start going out until the storm's completely passed. They have to consider their safety too. So if you're somebody that's taking the chance of riding out a storm and you get stuck in an emergency situation, you might be on your own. Special consideration specifically for Cape Coral. That's number 5. Canal homes. Docked boats become projectiles. Again, you have to secure it. These boats can be lifted right out of the water and set on the ground. We saw that in Ian. Massive shrimp boats were lifted and moved. I don't know how far. Yards, hundreds of yards. They were all over Fort Myers Beach. The whole Bayside area, yeah, the boat, and they were there for a while because it's hard to move these things. And in my marina, there was a massive catamaran sailboat, and it was out of the water on the seawall halfway. Ridiculous. Just a sight to see how bad it really got in some areas. But secure the boat on the lift, secure the lift itself if there's no boat on it at the time. You don't want anything to be able to be a projectile, because it's one more thing that you're going to have to worry about going through the storm. Now, flood insurance. Make sure you know your flood zone, and make sure that you understand the process of how to go about filing a claim, what needs to be done. Do you need pictures? What kind of documentation do you need? Try to have as many things prepared for that as well. Evacuation planning, know your zone, know where your shelters are. There are some shelters around the area. Again, there's going to be a lot of people. It's usually going to be like a school gymnasium or something, and you're going to have limited access to what you can bring in. I think some places allow pets and some don't. That one's kind of up in the air because it's very difficult between people with allergies and just fear of animals. It can be a very tough mix to bring animals into one of these shelters, but shelters are available. I can't say how nice they are because I'm not going to one. I'm not a shelter guy. I'm going to shelter down in my own house. However, they're available for you if you need them. After the storm, know that the canals will be full of debris. So watch what you're doing when you're going out so you don't damage your boat. But we had a lot of debris in the water after Ian, and I probably didn't see my boat on the water for months after the storm. I just wasn't willing to deal with dodging, debris and stuff like that. But that's me. Some people were fine with it and they just went right out. Number 6, step-by-step prep timelines. Okay, this part we want to pay real close attention to, because there's certain things you can do way in advance and there's other things you're going to do at the end. Like, first one is months before season, you want to trim the trees, check your insurances, and test your generator. Test your generator. That doesn't mean fill it up full of gas. You don't want gas to sit in these things beyond their use, because it will become bad and it's not going to run right. You're going to get it choking and spitting and everything else. Bad gas is a no-no, so only put enough in to test it. Once you see that it's running, don't add any more, just get it running, shut it back down, know that it's ready to go. 2 weeks before peak season. Peak season for us starts in June, ends in November. So at that point, stockpile non-perishables and rotate water. Kind of like I was saying with my water supply, right? Keep a little extra on hand. We're literally just beyond the middle of our peak. The peak happened 2 days ago. Yes, so we're on the backside of the slope, but you know what we're also on? The most active part of season. It always happens on the back half. So we're going to just move ahead cautiously, and understand this too. Temperature of water also plays a part in how strong a storm can be. And our water temperature at one point was around 90 degrees, maybe slightly higher. When we were out the other day in the boat, it was down below 85. So the temperature's coming down on the water. That's going to be a great help. The Saharan desert, or the Saharan dust, storms that have been coming across from Africa, those also squash the storms. So there's a lot of things that work in our favor. We could just hope that those are the things that are going to help us later if a storm's on its way. When a storm is named, this is where things get interesting. Top off your gas, check your shutters. Don't put them up, check your shutters, and gather your important documents. That's when it's named. I'm going to tell you something else that happens when a storm's named. If you're trying to buy a house or you're getting close to closing on it, they're not going to let you get insurance if there's a named storm. So you'll have to wait until after the storm passes. 72 hours before, secure the outside, set fridge and freezer cold, assemble go bags. I'm going to tell you, no, don't turn down the freezer and fridge 72 hours ahead. That's ridiculous. You're going to freeze everything solid and you're not going to be able to use it. Anyway, this is a little excessive and I understand why they're saying it. They don't want you to wait till the last minute and not get it cold enough, but 72 hours is a very long time to do it for. 24 hours. I would say that's more likely. Let's use the 24 hours for also setting the cold settings. And it says shelter in place or evacuate if ordered within 24 hours. Okay. If that's what you're going to do, that's great. Personally, I don't really hunker down and get all situated and locked down until I start to see signs of it being here. A little bit of wind and stuff, a little bit of rain is not going to be enough for me. I'm somebody that likes to witness all of it. And unfortunately, I still have shutters in my house, the solid metal ones. I can't see during a storm. Now, what I do have is a storm door on my front door. So I just open the front door and watch through the storm door. It's not ideal, but it allows me to see what's going on. And I'm still like a little kid when a storm comes. I want to see what happens. So if you're one of those, find a way to do it. I'm considering getting myself the impact windows. Again, mostly for the protection, but then I could also have the light and I'd be able to see what's going on all the time. If you're considering moving to Cape Coral, please pay attention to these tips and plan accordingly as you move into the season. If you want more honest information about what it's like to go through these things here in Cape Coral, subscribe to the channel, comment what you want to know about next, and reach out to me if I can answer any more questions, because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.